My name is Victoria James, and at 34 years old, I finally had everything I thought I wanted. A beautiful baby boy named Oliver, a loving husband named Mark, and a charming little house in a tree-lined neighborhood in Austin, Texas. I should have been glowing with pride at Oliver's christening, surrounded by family and friends who had come to celebrate our precious 3-month-old son. Instead, I found myself frozen in the church hallway, watching as my own sister Rebecca leaned in to whisper something to our cousin Sarah that would shatter my perfect world. "Poor Victoria has no idea," Rebecca murmured, just loud enough for me to hear from my position near the bathroom door. "That baby isn't even Mark's. I've seen the DNA test results." If you've ever felt the floor drop out from beneath your feet while your lungs forget how to breathe, let me know where you're watching from. Drop a comment below and join a community who understands that family betrayal cuts deeper than any knife ever could. I married Mark Daniels 5 years ago after meeting him at a technology conference in downtown Austin. He worked as a software engineer at a promising startup, while I managed client accounts at a marketing agency. With his kind brown eyes and quiet confidence, Mark was everything I'd been looking for, stable and trustworthy in all the ways my chaotic childhood had not been. Together, we built a life in a modest 3-bedroom house in the Brookside neighborhood, not extravagant but comfortable, with a small backyard where we imagined future children would play. My sister Rebecca lived just 20 minutes away in a sleek downtown apartment, though it might as well have been another planet. 2 years younger than me at 32, Rebecca had always been the wild child of our family, the one who took risks and demanded attention. While I chose sensible degrees and stable careers, Rebecca bounced between jobs and relationships, always landing on her feet through some combination of charm and cunning that I both envied and disapproved of. "You're so boring, Vicky," she would tell me with that signature laugh. "Don't you ever want to really live a little?" Despite our differences, we maintained a close relationship. Our parents had divorced bitterly when we were teenagers, leaving us with a shared trauma that bonded us even when other things pulled us apart. Rebecca was my maid of honor at my wedding, and I was the first person she called during her various life crises. When Mark and I struggled through 3 years of fertility treatments before finally conceiving Oliver, Rebecca visited weekly, bringing prenatal vitamins and silly gifts for the baby. "I'm going to be the cool aunt," she declared, painting stars on the nursery ceiling one weekend while I watched from the rocking chair, my 7-month pregnant belly making it impossible for me to help. "The one who sneaks him ice cream and teaches him bad words." I'd laughed and felt grateful for her presence in our lives. How blind I had been. The day of Oliver's christening had started perfectly. The May weather in Austin was surprisingly mild, with clear blue skies and a gentle breeze that carried the scent of honeysuckle through the open church windows. I dressed Oliver in the christening gown that had been in Mark's family for generations, a delicate creation of white cotton and lace that made our son look like a little prince. Mark stood beside me in a crisp navy suit, his hand resting protectively on the small of my back as we greeted guests. "He has your eyes," people kept saying, and each time Mark would beam with pride. I just finished nursing Oliver in the church's small mother's room and was heading back to the main hall when I overheard Rebecca's poisonous whisper to our cousin. My sister hadn't noticed me standing there, frozen in shock. She continued speaking, her voice low but clear enough for me to catch every devastating word. "I found the results in her email when I was using her laptop last month," Rebecca told Sarah. "Mark isn't the father. Victoria must have cheated on him. I'm just waiting for the right time to tell him the truth. He deserves to know." In that moment, I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't move. The accusation was so preposterous that my mind couldn't even process it properly. I had never been unfaithful to Mark, not once in our entire relationship. Oliver was conceived after years of fertility treatments, precisely tracked ovulation cycles, and more doctor's appointments than I could count. There was no possible way he wasn't Mark's child. Yet here was my sister, my own flesh and blood, spreading this vicious lie to our family. Sarah noticed me first, her eyes widening as she spotted me in the hallway. She nudged Rebecca, who turned and had the audacity to smile at me as if she hadn't just been destroying my life. "There's the mommy of the hour," Rebecca said sweetly, walking toward me with arms outstretched. "Need help with anything?" I backed away from her, clutching Oliver tighter to my chest. What did you just say to Sarah? I demanded, my voice barely above a whisper. Rebecca's smile didn't falter, but something cold flickered in her eyes. Just girl talk, Vicky, nothing important. You said Oliver isn't Mark's son, I hissed, careful to keep my voice down so the guests in the main hall wouldn't hear. You said you saw DNA results. Oh, Rebecca looked momentarily flustered before recovering. You misheard me. I was talking about a TV show I watched last night. You know, one of those paternity drama things. Sarah, clearly uncomfortable, mumbled an excuse about finding her husband and scurried away, leaving me alone with Rebecca and the monstrous lie hanging between us. Don't lie to me, I said. I heard you clearly. Why would you say something so horrible? Before Rebecca could answer, Mark appeared at my side, his hand gentle on my shoulder. Everything okay? Father Thomas is ready for us. I looked at my husband's trusting face, then at Rebecca's carefully composed expression, and made a split-second decision. This was Oliver's special day. I wouldn't let Rebecca's inexplicable cruelty ruin it. Everything's fine, I lied, forcing a smile. Just sister stuff. The rest of the ceremony passed in a blur. I went through the motions, smiling when appropriate, accepting congratulations, watching as holy water was poured over Oliver's forehead while he wailed in protest. All the while, my mind raced with questions. Why would Rebecca invent such a lie? What DNA results was she talking about? And most importantly, who else had she told? At the reception in our backyard, I watched my sister circulate among the guests, laughing and charming as always. Several times, I caught people glancing at me with what looked like pity, then quickly averting their eyes when I noticed. My mother kept patting my hand with a strained smile that didn't reach her eyes. Even Mark's parents seemed oddly distant, though they doted on Oliver as always. By the time the last guest left, I was a bundle of raw nerves, exhausted from maintaining my composure. Mark, busy cleaning up in the kitchen, hadn't seemed to notice anything amiss, but I couldn't shake the feeling that Rebecca had started something that would destroy everything I loved. That night, after Mark had fallen asleep and Oliver was finally down after his evening feeding, I sat at our kitchen table with my laptop, searching my email frantically. What DNA results could Rebecca possibly have seen? Had someone hacked my accounts and planted false information? I checked my sent items, my trash folder, my spam, finding nothing suspicious. Then I remembered that Rebecca had used my laptop about 6 weeks ago. She'd come over to help with Oliver while I napped and had asked to check some work emails. I'd given her my password without a second thought, trusting her completely. What a fool I had been. The next morning, I waited until Mark left for work, then called my mother to ask if she could watch Oliver for a few hours. I needed to confront Rebecca directly, away from my husband and baby. Is everything okay, Victoria? Mom asked, her voice cautious in a way that made my stomach clench. You seemed stressed at the christening. Did Rebecca say something to you? I countered. There was a telling pause before she answered. Rebecca mentioned that you've been having some struggles since the baby came. If you need to talk about anything at all, I'm here for you. The implication was clear. Rebecca had shared her lie with our mother too. I'm fine, I said flatly. Can you watch Oliver or not? Mom agreed, and 40 minutes later I was driving to Rebecca's downtown apartment, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. When she opened her door, Rebecca looked surprised to see me. Vicky, what are you doing here? Where's the little man? I pushed past her into the apartment. With Mom, we need to talk about what you said at the christening. Rebecca sighed dramatically, closing the door behind me. Are you still upset about that? I told you you misheard me. Stop lying, I snapped. You told Sarah that Oliver isn't Mark's son. You claim to have seen DNA test results in my email. I want to know why you would make up something so cruel. For a moment, something like guilt flashed across Rebecca's face. Then her expression hardened. I'm not making anything up, Victoria. I saw the results. Maybe you're the one who needs to stop lying. What results? I demanded. There are no results because there was no test because I have never cheated on Mark. Rebecca walked to her sleek white desk and pulled out a manila folder. I didn't want to do this, but you're forcing my hand. I printed this from your email. She handed me a document that made my blood run cold. It appeared to be a DNA paternity test report from a lab called Genetic Answers, stating with 99.9% certainty that Mark Daniels was not the biological father of Oliver James. The report had my email address at the top and appeared to have been sent to me 3 months before Oliver was born. My hands trembled as I stared at the paper. "This is fake," I whispered. "I never ordered any test. This isn't real." "Stop denying it," Rebecca said, her voice gentler now, almost sympathetic. "I know this is hard, but secrets like this always come out eventually. Mark deserves the truth." "There is no truth to tell because this is a lie," I shouted, waving the paper in her face. "I don't know how you created this, but it's not real." Rebecca took a step back, her expression shifting to one of concern. "Victoria, I'm worried about you. Postpartum depression can cause denial and—" "Don't you dare," I cut her off. "Don't you dare try to make me sound crazy when you're the one making up lies." I left her apartment with the fake report clutched in my hand, my mind racing. Why would Rebecca fabricate something so destructive? What could she possibly gain from destroying my marriage and family? Over the next week, I lived in a state of constant anxiety. Mark hadn't said anything about the paternity issue, which meant Rebecca hadn't told him yet. But how long before she did? How many others had she already poisoned against me with her lies? I needed evidence that the report was fake, something concrete I could use to prove my innocence. I called the lab listed on the document, only to discover that Genetic Answers didn't exist. There was no website, no physical location, nothing. The report was a complete fabrication. Rather than feeling relieved, I grew more frightened. Rebecca had gone to considerable trouble to create this fake document. What else might she have done? 2 weeks after the christening, I got my chance to find out. Rebecca texted asking if she could borrow a dress for a date. "You can come by and grab whatever you want from my closet," she added. "I'll leave a key under the mat. I have meetings all day." It felt like an invitation I couldn't refuse. With Oliver strapped to my chest in his carrier, I drove to Rebecca's apartment, retrieved the key, and let myself in. The dress was just an excuse. I needed to search for more evidence of my sister's deception. I started with her desk, carefully going through each drawer. In the bottom one, hidden beneath a stack of old magazines, I found a folder labeled simply V. Inside was a collection of documents that made my heart race. Copies of my driver's license, birth certificate, and social security card, several credit card applications with my forged signature, and most disturbing of all, a series of emails that appeared to be from me but that I had never written. "What have you been doing, Rebecca?" I whispered to the empty apartment. Oliver stirred against my chest, making soft baby noises that usually filled me with joy. In that moment, though, I felt only fear. What kind of danger had my sister put us in? I continued searching and found another folder in her bedroom closet, this one containing practice sheets covered with attempts at mimicking my signature. There were also printouts of information about forging documents, identity theft, and how to create convincing fake emails. My sister wasn't just spreading lies, she had been meticulously setting me up for years. But why? I took photos of everything with my phone, then carefully returned the folders to their hiding places. I needed more information before confronting Rebecca again. The fake paternity test was just the tip of the iceberg, I was sure of it. Have you ever discovered that someone you trusted completely had been living a double life? That moment when everything you thought you knew about them crumbles, leaving you wondering if any of it was ever real. It's like the ground beneath your feet suddenly turns to quicksand, and you're left grasping for anything solid to hold on to. That night, after feeding Oliver and putting him down in his crib, I sat Mark down for one of the hardest conversations of our life. "I need to tell you something," I began, my voice shaking despite my best efforts to stay calm. "And I need you to promise to hear me out completely before responding." Mark's expression grew serious. "You're scaring me, Vic. What's going on?" I took a deep breath and told him everything, from Rebecca's whispered lie at the christening to the fake paternity test to the folders full of forged documents I'd found in her apartment. As I spoke, Mark's face cycled through confusion, shock, and finally anger. "Let me see the test she gave you," he said when I finished. I handed him the fake report, and he studied it carefully. "This is ridiculous," he said finally. Aside from the fact that I trust you completely, this document doesn't even make sense. Look at this registration number, it's too short. And this letterhead is clearly photoshopped. Relief washed over me at his immediate acceptance of my innocence, but it was quickly replaced by renewed fear. The question is why, Mark? Why would Rebecca do this? Mark ran a hand through his hair, his expression troubled. I don't know, but we need to figure it out before she does something worse. Over the next few days, we pieced together a disturbing pattern. Rebecca had been systematically inserting herself into every aspect of our lives for years. She had coincidentally applied for a job at Mark's company shortly after we started dating, though she didn't get it. She'd suggested the neighborhood where we bought our house, claiming she had friends nearby. She didn't. She'd even recommended the fertility clinic we used, saying a coworker had success there. Most telling of all, Mark remembered that Rebecca had strongly opposed our move to Seattle 2 years ago when he was offered a job there. She'd listed so many reasons why staying in Austin was better that we eventually declined the opportunity. At the time, we'd appreciated her input. Now, it seemed controlling, manipulative. It's like she's been orchestrating our lives, I said, the realization making me feel physically ill. But I still don't understand the endgame. What does she want? The answer came in an unexpected way. While feeding Oliver one evening, I scrolled through old photos on my phone, looking for clues I might have missed about Rebecca's behavior. I came across pictures from Mark's birthday party last year, including several of Rebecca standing very close to him, her hand on his arm, her eyes fixed on his face while he looked elsewhere. There were dozens of similar photos from different events over the years. In each one, Rebecca was looking at my husband with an expression I recognized all too well, but had somehow never noticed before. Desire, possession, jealousy. Oh my God, I whispered, the pieces finally clicking into place. She wants you. She wants my life. When I showed Mark the photos, his face paled. There was an incident, he admitted reluctantly. About a month before Oliver was born, Rebecca stopped by when you were at a doctor's appointment. She was acting strange, standing too close, touching my arm. Then she said something like, "We would have beautiful children together," and tried to kiss me. I pushed her away and told her she needed to leave. She laughed it off as pregnancy hormones making me misinterpret things, and I didn't tell you because you were so close to your due date. I didn't want to stress you out. The betrayal cut deep from both directions, Rebecca's obsession with my husband and Mark's decision to keep it from me. But there wasn't time to process those feelings. We needed to act before Rebecca could do more damage. We need evidence, Mark said, immediately shifting to problem-solving mode. Real evidence that she's committing fraud. The photos you took are a start, but we need more. We developed a plan. Mark would check our credit reports for any accounts we hadn't opened. I would reach out to the people Rebecca had spoken to at the christening, including Sarah and my mother, to find out exactly what she'd told them. And we would set up a small camera in our living room, hoping to catch Rebecca in a confession if I confronted her there. Within 3 days, we discovered that Rebecca had opened 2 credit cards in my name and charged nearly $20,000 on them. She had also attempted to access our joint bank account twice, using my ID information, but had been stopped by security questions she couldn't answer. Most disturbing of all, she had created a dating profile using my photos and information and had been corresponding with multiple men while pretending to be me. The depth of her deception was staggering. This wasn't just jealousy or obsession, it was a systematic attempt to destroy my life and possibly take my place in it. When I called Rebecca and asked her to come over to discuss some concerns about Oliver, she agreed immediately. I could hear the eagerness in her voice, the anticipation of another opportunity to spread her poison. Mark set up the camera discreetly in a bookshelf, then took Oliver to his parents' house for the afternoon. I didn't want my baby anywhere near Rebecca until this was resolved. She arrived looking perfectly put together in a floral dress and sandals, her dark hair loose around her shoulders. We could have been twins from a distance, with our similar builds and coloring, though up close her features were sharper, her expression more calculating. "Where's the little guy?" she asked, glancing around the living room. "With Mark's parents," I said. "I needed to talk to you privately." Rebecca sat on the couch, crossing her legs casually. "Sounds serious. What's going on?" I remained standing, needing the physical advantage. I know everything, Rebecca. The fake paternity test, the forged documents, the credit cards you opened in my name, the dating profile, all of it. For a moment, her mask slipped, and I saw naked panic in her eyes. Then she recovered, laughing lightly. What are you talking about? Have you been watching too many crime shows? Stop lying, I said firmly. I found the folders in your apartment. I have photos of everything. Rebecca's expression hardened. You went through my things. That's invasion of privacy. I could press charges. Go ahead. Explain to the police why you have copies of my personal identification documents and practice sheets of my signature. She stood abruptly. You're being ridiculous. I don't know what you think you found, but you're obviously confused. Maybe you should talk to someone professional about these paranoid delusions. Mark knows everything too, I continued, ignoring her attempt to gaslight me, including how you tried to kiss him while I was pregnant. That hit home. Rebecca's face flushed deep red. He told you about that? It was nothing, a misunderstanding. It wasn't a misunderstanding. Just like it's not a misunderstanding that you're in love with my husband and trying to destroy my marriage with fake paternity tests. Rebecca's composure cracked entirely. He should have been mine, she shouted, her hands clenching into fists. We would have been perfect together if you hadn't swooped in first. I introduced you, did you forget that? The conference was my idea. Mark was supposed to meet me there, but you showed up early and stole him. Her voice echoed in the quiet house. I stared at her, finally seeing the full extent of her delusion. That's not what happened, I said quietly. You invited me to that conference. You specifically said there was someone you wanted me to meet. Rebecca laughed bitterly. Of course that's what I said. I needed a wingwoman. But then Mark took one look at perfect Victoria with her perfect job and perfect apartment, and suddenly I didn't exist anymore. So you've spent 5 years trying to destroy my life, because of a man you knew for all of 10 minutes before I met him. You take everything from me, she screamed. You always have. Mom and Dad always loved you more, always trusted you more. Victoria's so responsible, so trustworthy, so perfect. I was just the screw-up, the wild child, the one they worried about. Then I finally found something good, a chance at a real relationship with an amazing man, and you stole him too. Her version of our shared history was so warped I hardly recognized it. In her mind, I was the villain who had systematically taken everything she deserved. And now you have his baby, she continued, her voice breaking. A perfect little family that should have been mine. So yes, I created that paternity test. I was going to show it to Mark, make him doubt you, make him see that you're not as perfect as everyone thinks. When you were broken up, I would be there to comfort him, to show him who really loves him. You're sick, Rebecca, I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. You need help. I don't need help, she snapped. I need what's rightfully mine. Mark should be with me. That baby should be mine. A chill ran down my spine at the possessive way she spoke about my son. This wasn't just about Mark anymore. She wanted Oliver too. You need to leave, I said, moving toward the door. Now, and don't come back. Rebecca didn't move. You can't keep me away from them. Mark will see the truth eventually, and that baby will need me when you're gone. What does that mean? I demanded. Are you threatening me? She smiled, a cold expression that didn't reach her eyes. I'm just stating facts. Things happen, Victoria. Accidents, misunderstandings, identity mix-ups. One day you might find yourself locked out of your perfect life, and I'll be right here waiting to step into it. I had heard enough. I pulled out my phone and called the police while Rebecca watched with narrowed eyes. You're calling the cops on your own sister, she asked incredulously, over a family disagreement. This isn't a disagreement, I replied as the dispatcher answered. It's identity theft, fraud, forgery, and now threats against me and my child. While I reported the situation to the police, Rebecca gathered her purse and headed for the door. They'll never believe you, she hissed. It's your word against mine, and I have an explanation for everything you found. You'll look like a hysterical new mother having a breakdown. After she left, I sank onto the couch, my legs suddenly too weak to support me. The confrontation had confirmed my worst fears. Rebecca didn't just want to hurt me, she wanted to replace me. The thought of her anywhere near my son made me physically ill. The police arrived 20 minutes later. I showed them the photos I'd taken of the forged documents and credit card statements proving fraud. They took my statement but warned me that without the actual documents in hand, it might be difficult to pursue charges. Family fraud cases are complicated, the officer explained sympathetically, especially when there's shared access to living spaces and computers. When Mark returned with Oliver, I filled him in on everything while clutching our son to my chest. The idea of Rebecca's obsession extending to our baby terrified me in a primal way I'd never experienced before. "We need to get those documents," Mark said firmly. "It's the only way to make sure she faces consequences and stays away from us." But how? Rebecca would be on high alert now, possibly already destroying evidence. We couldn't break into her apartment, that would make us the criminals. We needed a legal way to obtain proof of her crimes. The solution came from an unexpected source. My mother called the next morning, her voice hesitant. "Victoria, I've been thinking about what you told me about Rebecca," she began. At first, I didn't believe it. It seemed so extreme, but then I remembered something strange from last Christmas. Mom explained that she had found Rebecca in her home office using Mom's computer. When questioned, Rebecca had claimed to be ordering a last-minute gift, but Mom had later noticed some financial documents were out of place. She hadn't thought much of it at the time, assuming she'd moved them herself and forgotten. "I checked my credit report this morning," Mom continued. "There's a loan I never took out, and a credit card with a $5,000 balance. Rebecca's been stealing from me too." With Mom's experience adding credibility to my claims, we went back to the police with a stronger case. This time, they agreed to obtain a warrant to search Rebecca's apartment for evidence of fraud. The search revealed far more than even I had imagined. Rebecca had been forging documents and stealing identities for years, not just mine and Mom's, but several friends as well. She had created an elaborate system of fake accounts, mail diversions, and identity theft that had funded her seemingly affluent lifestyle. The designer clothes, the downtown apartment, the luxury vacations, all paid for with stolen money. Most disturbing of all, they found a journal detailing her plans regarding Mark and Oliver. She had researched how to contest paternity, how to report me for child neglect, and even how to assume custody of a child in case of a parent's accidental death. The explicit nature of her plans sent me into a panic attack that left me gasping for breath on our living room floor while Mark called my doctor. Rebecca was arrested and charged with multiple counts of fraud, forgery, identity theft, and criminal conspiracy. She was denied bail due to the threatening nature of her journal entries regarding me and Oliver. When I saw her in court for the preliminary hearing, she stared at me with such cold hatred that I physically recoiled. The district attorney assured us that with the mountain of evidence found in her apartment, Rebecca would likely serve significant prison time. We also filed for a permanent restraining order to keep her away from our family once she was eventually released. The aftermath left me shattered in ways I'm still trying to repair. I check the locks on our doors compulsively every night. I've installed cameras throughout our house and yard. I rarely let Oliver out of my sight, and I've developed a fear of leaving him with babysitters or even family members. Mark has been patient with my anxiety, but I can see the toll it takes on him too. My relationship with my mother has improved somewhat through our shared victimhood. She finally sees the Rebecca I came to know, not the misunderstood wild child, but a calculating manipulator who viewed others as either tools or obstacles. Yet even this connection is tainted by the knowledge that Mom initially doubted my story, choosing to believe Rebecca's lies until she herself was affected. 6 months after Rebecca's arrest, we decided to move forward with the Seattle opportunity that Mark had originally been offered. We needed a fresh start, away from the whispers and pitying looks, away from the locations tainted by Rebecca's betrayal. The company was thrilled to have Mark join them, and my agency allowed me to transfer to their Seattle branch. Our new home is on a quiet street with a view of mountains in the distance. Oliver has started crawling, exploring his world with the innocent curiosity only babies possess. Sometimes when I watch him, I wonder how Rebecca could have looked at his perfect little face and still plotted to tear him away from me. Other times, I wonder if there were signs of her instability that I missed, clues I should have noticed years ago. The hardest part is explaining to people why I no longer have a sister. Friends and new acquaintances ask innocent questions about family, and I never know how to respond. How do you tell someone that your own sister tried to steal your identity, destroy your marriage, and take your child? That she's currently serving 5 years in state prison for fraud and conspiracy? That you still sometimes wake up in cold sweats from nightmares where she's standing over Oliver's crib? Mark thinks I should talk to a therapist about my ongoing fears, and he's probably right. The anxiety hasn't decreased with distance or time. If anything, it's morphed into new forms. I worry that Rebecca will find ways to hurt us from prison, that she'll be released early for good behavior, that she'll track us down in Seattle and resume her campaign to take my place. On Oliver's first birthday, I received a card with no return address. Inside was a blank sheet of paper with a single lipstick kiss in the center, Rebecca's signature shade of red. The postmark was from Austin, not the prison where she's incarcerated. Someone had sent it for her. Someone was still helping her. I didn't tell Mark about the card. I didn't call the police. I simply burned it in our backyard fire pit and watched the ashes float away into the night sky. Some betrayals cut too deep for normal responses, creating wounds that never fully heal but merely scab over, ready to bleed again at the slightest touch. Oliver is napping now as I write this, his little chest rising and falling peacefully on the baby monitor screen. Mark is at work, due home in a few hours. Our life here looks normal from the outside, a young family building new memories in a new city. No one would guess the broken pieces we've glued back together or the vigilance with which we guard our happiness. Have you ever had to rebuild your sense of safety after someone you loved betrayed you? How do you learn to trust again when the person who hurt you most shared your blood, your history, your face? Sometimes I think the real prison isn't the one holding Rebecca, but the one of fear and doubt that I carry within me every day. I'm trying to focus on the good things. Oliver's first steps will come soon. Mark got a promotion last month. We've made friends with a couple down the street who have a daughter Oliver's age. Life continues its forward momentum, pulling us along whether we're ready or not. Most days, I can almost convince myself that we're safe, that the worst is behind us. Then the mail arrives, and for a split second before I check it, my heart stops beating. Old habits die hard, and fear, once learned, is nearly impossible to unlearn. But I refuse to let Rebecca steal anything more from us. Not our peace, not our joy, not our future. So I take a deep breath, sort through the envelopes, and choose to live as if the monsters aren't real, even while keeping one eye on the shadows, just in case.